A busy day for former President Donald Trump as he faces legal battles in New York and Washington, D.C.
Fox's Linda Schmidt is in New York with the latest. Linda?
Yeah, are you almost done, I hope?
Yeah, first of all, good evening to both of you. The former president today fighting two court battles, both of them historic. Of course, he's got his criminal case here in Lower Manhattan, here in New York. It's the hush money trial going on, and this was day 3 of testimony from David Pecker. But in addition to that, he had in D.C., the U.S. Supreme Court, hearing arguments today. But none of this stopping the president from doing some campaigning early this morning and earlier this week while he is here in New York. Before arriving at court today, former President Donald Trump making an early morning campaign stop at a construction site in Midtown Manhattan. The former president says he is going to continue campaigning in New York during his criminal trial. Trump has long complained that his hush money trial is just a political hatchet job to prevent him from campaigning for president. On the stand for a third day is David Pecker, a longtime friend of Trump's and the former publisher of the National Enquirer tabloid. He is testifying that he worked with Trump and Trump's former personal attorney, Michael Cohen, to bury negative stories about Trump during the 2016 campaign. Trump was asked about Pecker's testimony so far.
No, he's been very nice. David's been very nice. He's a nice guy.
Pecker testifying today about killing a story from former Playboy model Karen McDougal. She says she had a nearly year-long affair with Trump. When I got on the phone, Mr. Trump said to me, I spoke to Michael and then asked me what I thought he should do about the story. Pecker said, I think you should bury the story to keep it from going public. Pecker paid McDougal $150,000 for the rights to her story and then buried it. He told the jury the payoffs to McDougal and porn actress Stormy Daniels were not meant to protect Trump's family, but rather it was basically what the impact would be to the campaign and the election. His family was never mentioned, and the conversation I had directly with Mr. Trump, his family wasn't mentioned. Meanwhile, the U.S. Supreme Court hearing arguments today on whether Trump can be prosecuted over his actions to overturn the 2020 election results while he was still in office. New York Judge Juan Merchan rejecting Trump's request to skip his criminal trial to go to D.C.
I should be there, but he wouldn't allow it to happen. I think he puts himself above the Supreme Court, which is unfortunate.
And today, once again, prosecutors asking the judge in this case to hold Mr. Trump in contempt of court for violating his gag order. They said that he's done that at least 14 times. It might even be 15 times now, including 4 times in just the last 3 days. He's been making comments about Michael Cohen, of course, who will be a witness in this case. Also, he made comments about the jurors, saying that they were 95% of them were Democrats. We do not know that to be true. And then again today, when he was asked about David Pecker, he said he's nice. He's a nice guy. With the gag order, he is not allowed to talk about any witnesses, even if it's something nice, and he is not allowed to talk about the jury. Back inside to you.
All right, Linda Schmidt, live for us up at the federal courthouse in New York City. Linda, thanks.